My name is Cindy Carpenter. I am the Head of HR and Marketing at Corrs Chambers Westgarth. I came into Corrs about 2 years ago, and prior to Corrs I worked 13 years with the Boston Consulting Group, so I have had about 8 years experience of client-facing strategy work. My role at Corrs is I head up HR and marketing, and I also head up a change program. It's an organisation-wide transformation program that came off the back of our strategy that we developed for our firm. So I suppose you could say I was a strategist for Corrs, but in many law firms, the strategy function is rolled into marketing, and it's not a traditional strategy function. I do have a few heroes in the area of strategic management, and I think given how long ago I did my MBA, you wouldn't be surprised to hear that one of them is Porter, because I think Porter did bring structure to competitive advantage, and I think helped a lot of business school students understand what competitive strategy was about. And my other hero in the area of strategic management, or heroes, is Pralit and Hamel, because I think that they, with core capabilities and core competencies, they heralded the beginning of us thinking about human capital as a way to create competitive advantage. It's a bit like planning a holiday. You have to choose the destination, and then you have to find the best pathway there, and then you have to choose the vehicle or the means of travel that will get you there, fastest speed, lowest cost, greatest safety. Well, strategy is a bit like that. It's you have an end in mind, and it's a means by which you achieve that end. If you have a strategy, you have a collective sense of purpose, and you've got something by which to judge your actions and how you're going to undertake things. If you're focused, it means that you're not wasting money, time and effort on the things that don't matter. And if you've got a clear strategy, clearly communicated, it guides people throughout the organisation as to where to point and head. I would say that mistakes I've seen is that you can become too wedded to a framework, and you'll use that framework and potentially exclude some important dimensions that you should be looking at. The other thing that you can do is not listen, is get wedded to your assumptions, and it's very important, I think, to state what your assumptions are and challenge them. I think the scientists have a terrific approach to problem solving that lends itself to developing strategy, and that is that you propose a hypothesis and then you go about disproving it, because I think that's a good discipline for proving that your hypothesis about your strategy is actually correct. If you go about trying to disprove it, it's a good way to challenge your assumptions and to find the gaps and find the mistakes. When you're determining strategy, there's a few skills that are really helpful. I think one is that you've already had some exposure to helpful frameworks that help you determine strategy, like, for example, Porter's 5 Forces, or BCG Growth Share Matrix, and there are many other good frameworks that are helpful. I think secondly is analytical skills. Be prepared to get your spreadsheet out and crunch some numbers around market trends, competitors' success in what areas, etc., your own firm's financial performance across various categories, etc. And I think know too some good analytical tools that you can use to analyse a lot of information. So, for example, right down to waterfall diagrams that help you display, the breakdown of components to a particular piece of analysis, or bubble charts, or scatter plots, or these things that your students are probably learning about at university. It's well worth paying attention, because they're helpful techniques to use when you're analysing a lot of data in order to determine your strategy. Listening skills is really important. Be prepared to challenge your assumptions. Listen to people that have got interesting things to say about the industry, competitors, the organisation, how the organisation's performing. I used to find when I was doing client work as a strategy person that when you looked back, you often found that the people in an organisation knew the answer. In some way, shape or form, they might not have had a full answer, but they had bits of it. And so if you were listening really carefully, just in interviewing, you can get a pretty good sense of what the firm's strategy needs to be. I think the way that you build a good strategy is looking both internally and externally. So I think you've got to look internally at the strengths and weaknesses of the organisation, against the usual determinants of success. If you think of a balanced scorecard, it would be around people, around clients, around your financial success, etc. And then externally, you need to look at the market. What are the trends and developments happening locally and globally? You need to look at competitors. What are they doing in the market? What products and services are they selling? How are they? Are they doing things differently to you in any way, shape, or form? And then I think once you've got that background, then you can define what your goals are to success as an organisation, and then map the pathway there, which is effectively your strategy. What is a great strategy is one that gives an organisation sustainable competitive advantage. So in other words, you've looked at the landscape, of the place where you're competing, the place where your company's competing, and you've found yourself a clear competitive space, and hopefully defensible over time, where you can operate as an organisation to meet your clients' and customers' needs better than any of your other competitors, and you're doing it in a way that's profitable and sustainable. Our partners and our lawyers need to be technically excellent, and that basically, if they're not meeting that hurdle, we're not in the game. But beyond that, once you've met the hurdle of technical excellence, beyond that comes the differentiation. And for us at Corrs, the differentiation is about bridging the gap between legal practice and business challenges. There is a very big difference between strategy for professional services firms versus strategy for product or traditional manufacturing organisations. In fact, when I was looking up the definition of what others thought, the definition of strategy was, one of the definitions was that it's one of three things. It's either client or customer intimacy, or operating excellence, or superior products and services. And when you look at a professional services firm, it's basically the people that are creating all three of those things. So it's the people that are getting close to clients and creating the intimacy. It's the people that are delivering the products and services. In fact, the manufacturing and the delivery happens simultaneously. And it's the people that are creating the operational efficiency and effectiveness. So what that means is that in a professional services firm, your strategy and your branding is embedded in your people. Setting strategy in a professional services environment is interesting too. When I first started at Corrs and I spoke to some of the other law firms here and overseas, a lot of them said there is no competitive advantage in professional services outside of which segments you want to serve or which regions you want to serve in. We all pretty much do the same thing, and I actually disagree with that. I think there is competitive advantage, and I think that it is about understanding what your clients need and delivering that through your capabilities and through your processes. Is a source of competitive advantage, and in fact it's what we're aiming to do here at Corrs. Building competitive advantage then in a professional services organisation is challenging because it is based on people, and people leave and go and they choose their own behaviours and beliefs. And so I think that that's the reason why I feel quite privileged to sit over both HR and marketing, because I think that in creating and in implementing strategy in professional services firms, and particularly in law firms, in doing it through people, you need to do it through all the levers of change around around on the, the discipline slide around role definitions, accountabilities, KPIs, etc. And on the engagement side, it's around reward and recognition and setting a vision and the like. When you think about culture, it basically is the collective and enduring behaviours and beliefs of an organisation. So your strategy and your culture absolutely have to align. People have really been energised by having a vision that they understand and that they can feel proud of, and that we can celebrate when we can demonstrate that we're on our way there, and they can talk about it externally. And it's been an incredibly powerful motivator, because it's unusual for a firm to have the clarity of vision that we've got here at Corrs. Here at Corrs, and I would say for most other professional services firms, the brand it's like an articulation of your culture in a way, because your service delivery is through your people. Then your brand is really an articulation of the behaviours of your people, and hopefully consistent behaviours. I'm quite privileged at Corrs in that I'm able to, I lead both HR and marketing. So in creating change, I've got the levers of learning and development, performance management, incentives, rewards on the people side, on the HR side, and on the marketing side, I've got the levers of to some degree helping to influence which clients we serve and how we serve them, who's on what client teams, and so what that gives me is when we're looking at brand, for example, and launching a brand, it means that, for example, one defining aspect of our brand is incisiveness, incisive legal advice. And so we know that there's a set of capabilities and skills, knowledge and experience that our lawyers need in order to be incisive. And there's probably, some precedents and templates and processes that they need to help them be incisive. So on the people side, I can make sure that in learning and development, we know what skills they require, and we can build that into the learning and development curriculum. And I know that I can build into their capability statement that we're going to, ask clients how incisive their advice is, and we will evaluate their performance against that, and therefore we will compensate them and reward them against how incisive their advice is. And on the client side, on the marketing side, one of the levers I can use is client listening. So I can get the people that are involved in client listening to go out and talk to clients and say, well, how incisive is our advice, which gives us a sense of, how we're performing against that as a brand attribute, and therefore, informs whether we need to do even more work to be even more incisive. So in a way, I feel very lucky that I've got a lot of levers of change to help us to live and breathe that brand promise of incisive legal advice. Corrs 2010 is the transformation program that I was hired to lead, as well as HR and marketing, and it was developed. BCG helped, or the Boston Consulting Group helped Corrs to pause, take a look externally, take a look internally, look at competitors, look at trends and developments, and say, this is a strategy that will take us through to 2010 and beyond. This will create a sustainable leading legal firm. And that strategy touched on the client side, the partnership side, and the people side. And we basically, on the client side, decided that we wanted to focus on large, profitable clients, because we found that smaller clients are not as profitable. So we're deliberately making a choice about focusing on the clients where we think we can make the most difference to their business, and we're doing that through industry divisions, where we have launched 5 industry divisions, and we're using them as a mechanism to nurture those big client relationships, and also to increase the commerciality of our lawyers through building their industry expertise. And then we're doing some other good things around the disciplines relating to client account management, as well as building an even stronger corporate advisory practice, which is one of our practice groups. On the people side, we're aiming to create an inspiring workplace for very talented people to join and to stay here. And so we're very resolutely creating a high-performance culture. And so we're doing things like evaluating people on a distribution curve, on a bell curve, and we're rewarding those people who perform at the higher end of the performance scale with higher pay and incentives and rewards. We're investing a lot in the learning and development of our people so that their technical skills are outstanding as well as their commercial skills, and so that we can deliver to our clients outstanding service and high quality advice. And then on the partnership side, we're doing a lot of work around partners teaming together to deliver, seamless service to our clients. So that's effectively our strategy. It's not rocket science. It's actually very simple. It's very straightforward. It's interesting launching a strategy and a change program in a law firm because they have this reputation of being like herding cats. They're really just a bunch of people sharing a photocopier. They're not really like a corporate where you have a CEO who can dictate a strategy and a leadership team who can just mandate that things have to happen. The reason it does work at Corrs, that we have got a strategy and that which people have come on board to and they're actually keen to implement, is that we've done, I think, some clever things. Like we did a lot of consultation one-on-one with the partners. We ran a lot of focus groups and we continue to do that. We do a lot of listening to our staff through surveys and then we involve them in the change. So at one stage we had something like about 20 change teams across the whole organisation. And when we looked at the percentage of people we had actively involved in the strategy and the initiatives, there was a really high percentage. So I think we've been able to, in terms of using the herding cats analogy, we've been able to bring all the cats together and get all the cats involved. The framework that we use to put 2010 together is not dissimilar to the way that you would put any strategy together. I mentioned before looking internally and externally. So we looked at internally at our performance in terms of how engaged and satisfied our people were, our attrition. We looked at, and likewise for partners, and we looked at clients, how satisfied our clients were with our service, what they really cared about, what they were getting and they weren't getting from their legal service providers. We looked at the trends and developments in the market here and overseas. We looked at the drivers of demand for the various types of legal services and our capabilities in terms of delivering those legal services and meeting what was expected of clients. And then through that we came up with what was essentially a framework for how the various firms compete in the Australian legal industry, and effectively we mapped it against size and quality. So some law firms aim to be high quality, full service, large size. Some aim to be high quality but in particular segments and particular practice areas. Some aim to be full service but at the more commodity end of the market using technology, what you'd probably call sort of the legal factories. And others, are probably a little bit lost in that they're neither high quality nor a large size. So, and if you think of that framework, you can get lost in the middle very easily. And the successful firms are those that have defined themselves clearly on the dimensions of both quality and size. For us, we're quite clear about the outcomes that we're aiming for in our 2010 strategy. We've set ourselves a set of KPIs with targets by year and we monitor against them. So on the client side, we want a strong portfolio of large clients. We want 5 thriving industry divisions and we've pinned that down to how much revenue growth we want from them, and we've pinned it down to how much of the fees that Corrs earn we would like to come out of those industry divisions. We want a strong corporate advisory practice, and so we know what that means in terms of the way clients perceive it, in terms of the proportion of large deals that we do, M&A deals that we do, and other corporate advisory work that we do. that's on the, and there are others on the client side, but that's an example. On the people side, we want to create an inspiring workplace, and the way that we've defined that is that we get into the top quartile of employee satisfaction against international benchmarks, and that we have attrition that is lower, a lot lower than the industry average. And so far we've been able to largely achieve that after 2 years of change. We've also got set ourselves some targets around diversity, having a certain proportion of women in the partnership group. And we've set ourselves targets around the amount of time and effort we put into pro bono work, because we know that is a great contributor to creating an inspiring workplace for our lawyers. My advice would be, if you want to be a strategist, is to go spend time in a management consulting firm, because I think there's nothing like a lot of practice at a very, in a firm that demands an extremely high quality of analysis and high quality of an answer. There is nothing like at least 2 to 4 years in a management consulting firm to set you up as an extraordinarily good strategist.